Welcome to MMA on the Rocks. My name is Bill Welker. You are listening to episode 230 of the podcast, or hopefully you're joining us live on Facebook or YouTube as we're here watching the main event of UFC Vegas 20 and giving you our live commentary on the heavyweight matchup between Jairzinho, Rozenstruik, and Ciryl Gane, two heavyweights that I've been really high on for a long time. For those of you who are longtime listeners of the show, well know. Bruce Buffer is introducing them right now. And as he does that, I will introduce my co-host all the way from snowy New Jersey, where he's making sure he doesn't get audited on his taxes while he does the podcast. Jeff, the animal Wilson. Jeff, are you psyched for this heavyweight event right now?
Oh, absolutely, Bill. Almost as psyched as I am for the nice fat return I'm getting from my federal taxes this year.
Well, now that we have the IRS listening.
Doesn't matter, Bill. TurboTax offers protection if I get audited. It's worth the $50.
TurboTax is emailing you right now. Like, we want nothing to do with this. Keep your $50. All right. I don't have the sound on the fights, obviously, but Bruce Buffer introducing Rozenstruik right now. If you want to sync up with us, I'll give you the timer once the fight starts. If you want to sync, I guess this is a semi-brawl crawl here, Jeff. We haven't done one in a while. Mark Fellows tells us it's been 7 months. I guess he's been keeping track, and I believe him because I don't have any other fact checkers to prove that he's wrong. So I guess it's been a while since we've done one of these. So for those of you who are not familiar, brawl crawl is like a pub crawl, but instead of going from pub to pub, we watch fights while I drink booze. And I happen to be drinking the MMA on the Rocks pick for the whiskey of the year in 2020, Bell Mead bourbon. It is very delicious, and I'm quite enjoying it. I'm a couple deep right now, Jeff, so this should be interesting. We've had a pretty good card so far. A little bit of a surprise card. I'd say I was pleasantly surprised with how this card has been going. We've had some wild fights on here. Some fights that I thought were going to be really good that either didn't happen or, kind of fell short. But any kind of encompassing thoughts on the rest of the card before this heavyweight matchup gets underway?
Yeah, Bill, it's been an awesome card so far. I loved the Jimmie Rivera versus Pedro Munhoz fight. What a great way for Pedro Munhoz to get back on the map here, man. Jimmie Rivera, tough dude. Mm-hmm. As we get ready for the early sequences of round one between Gane and Rozenstruik here.
Yeah, and if you want to sync up, I'm at 4 minutes, 45 seconds of round number one. And Rozenstruik throwing bombs at Gane right away. And Gane's very composed, man. He's super well-rounded. I like both of these guys, which is why I didn't really want to see this matchup just yet, because I feel like they're still so young in their MMA careers. I would like to see them both develop a little bit more, but you got kind of a shallow heavyweight division, so you kind of had to put these two in there together. And Rozenstruik is looking to put Gane away, man. He's swinging for the fences here, but Gane staying super composed. He's bouncing a lot though, which I don't like for him, because that'll make it easy for Rozenstruik to pick up on his rhythm, and he might hit him with one of those big overhands. He's swinging the left and the right big time.
Bill, I disagree. I like the bouncing, man. I think Gane is making it harder for Rozenstruik to land. I feel like not leaving his weight in any one spot for too long. I think Gane's going to be able to avoid some of that damage that Rozenstruik wants to dish out here.
Yeah, it's possible. But the thing about it is he's not cutting a lot of angles. He's just kind of standing right in front of him, bouncing up and down. If he were like moving his head far off the center line or cutting angles away from the power hand, I would be a little more inclined to agree with you. But he is just kind of standing right in front of Biggie Boy here, which makes me worried for him. He's He's doing a nice job with that inside leg kick too. So he's looking good. Gane, you could tell, is a lot longer. If he wants, he can control the range of this fight and keep Rozenstruik at a distance. Rozenstruik is just like a stout powerhouse, man. I mean, he almost seems like a little small to be a heavyweight, but he definitely hits like a heavyweight. And Gane is not looking to brawl here. You can tell he wants some really technical exchanges.
Yeah, Bill, and I think that for Gane, that might be the road to victory here is, make this fight last as long as possible, go for the 5 rounds, although we've also seen Rozenstruik put people like Alistair Overeem away in that 5th round when he, just destroyed his face.
Yeah, he's got knockout power from bell to bell, that's for sure. If Rozenstruik gets a knockout victory here, Jeff, I'm already going to tell you now, I'm naming the episode Gone with the Wind.
I think you should name that anyway.
All right. Done. Unless we come up with something better in the meantime.
Or like Lightning Rozenstruik's twice or something.
I like that too. Rozenstruik is like a little too committed to the power punch. I feel like I'd like to see him mix it up a little, like maybe close the distance to clinch or something, which is what Ciryl Gane just did, ironically. Yeah, Gane is just controlling the pace of this fight. He doesn't want to get into like into a blow for blow with Rozenstruik. You can kind of tell. Which is smart. I mean, why would you want to do that unless you're Francis Ngannou? It worked for him, but a lot of things work for him that shouldn't, that don't work for other people.
Oh yeah, dude, and that's part of his appeal, dude. That's why we love Francis Ngannou. But I think Gane's approaching this with the right strategy. I like, grind it out, wear heavy on Rozenstruik, make him carry you around. And it looked like Rozenstruik was going to go down for a second. He grabbed the cage for a second, which, Bill, I wanted to talk about real quick in between rounds. We'll get to that in about 15 seconds. But Gane able to land a takedown and is able to control Rozenstruik a little bit on the ground here. Bill, do you think this steals the round for Gane here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he controlled the distance. He landed some light strikes. He didn't land like any damage on the feet by any means, but he also was able to avoid the big shots from Rozenstruik. And the takedown definitely stole around for me. So I would give that one 10-9 to Gane. He's definitely playing out a good strategy here. We've seen Rozenstruik go 5 rounds. We've never seen Ciryl Gane go that long, but he has pulled like some submissions out at the end of the 3rd round. We've seen from him. So, we know he's still like wily in the later rounds of a 3-round fight. So it would be interesting to see this one go the distance. But you were bringing up a point about grabbing the cage, Jeff.
Yeah, and we saw that a little bit earlier in Bueno, Silva, and I can't remember her opponent's name at the
Montana de la Rosa.
Thank you. So we saw Bueno Silva actually lose a point for grabbing the fence, which, Bill, I like that. I like seeing the ref give a stern warning, and then he said, listen, that's it, I'm taking a point away. And the commentators made a good point about referees having a united front on that, and I think we'd see a lot less grabbing the cage when you're being taken down.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where it's hard not to grab it. When you're falling down, you're trying not to fall down. And for the most part, Bueno Silva had great takedown defense. I feel like the story of that fight was, De La Rosa not being able to finish a lot of the takedowns. She did get a couple of them, but so her entries were really good on those takedowns, but the finishing definitely needs work. It also speaks to the fact that Bueno Silva was the stronger fighter in there. as we're getting into round 2 of this main event here, UFC 20, if you're just joining us, 4 minutes, 20 seconds, round number 2, if you want to sync up with us here. Jairzinho, Rozenstruik, and Ciryl Gane. De La Rosa having a real problem finishing those takedowns. And it's good that she's able to get the entries, and it's good that she's able to, feel confident in her ground skills, taking another grappler to the ground. But you got to be able to finish those takedowns too. And there were a lot of positions where, and not just the position where Bueno Silva grabbed the cage, but there are a lot of times where she should have been able to finish those takedowns and just wasn't turning the corner on them. Wasn't chaining her takedowns together. She would stay committed to one type of takedown, and when she wasn't getting it, she wouldn't switch it up or change levels and switch to something else. So a little bit of skills to be brushed up there. What do you think about the decision in that fight, going to a draw, and that's with the point deduction?
I was disappointed. Honestly, I thought De La Rosa was going to win that fight, mostly because of the point deduction. But, take nothing away from Bueno Silva. She was able to claw her way back, and she looked just a little bit better on the feet. And I think the takedown defense also helped sway the judges a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems like the way judges are judging grappling has changed, and like very recently, we've seen it in the past couple of weeks where, fighters are getting takedowns and losing fights because they're not doing enough with them. And there's been no change in the criteria. It's just the way that judges have been lately. So that might be something that fighters are going to have to adapt to. I agree with you. I think De La Rosa did enough to win the fight, especially with that point deduction. I was really surprised to see this one go to a draw. I don't see what, Bueno Silva, like you said, was looking better on the feet, but I don't think she did enough to compensate for that point deduction by any means. So I guess what happened was, if the point deduction was in the second round, I guess Bueno Silva won the first and the third, according to a few of the judges. I didn't really see it that way, but it should have been De La Rosa only had to win one of those rounds to win the fight.
Oh, absolutely. Agree with you 100%. And speaking of I'm liking the energy here between Rozenstruik and Gane. There's a little bit of a scramble, but Gane has regained control. And Bill, I'm actually a little surprised at the strength difference up against the cage here. I would think that Rozenstruik is able to turn Gane around a little bit easier to get off the cage, but a nice trip from Gane. Tried to take the back there, and it didn't really work out for him. Rozenstruik a little too wise for that.
Oh, and Gane's on his back right now, going for that rear naked choke. And man, Rozenstruik just swinging wild, trying to get out of these scrambles. This is dangerous for Gane here. Yeah, as far as being strong enough to reverse those positions, it's a matter of leverage. So Gane is using his height advantage in those clinch scenarios to push his weight down on Rozenstruik. So he's got to work against the pressure of being pushed against the cage and the weight of Gane coming down on his arms, using that bicep control in a clinch. It's actually a really methodical strategy from Gane, using up against the cage. And it's kind of cool to see it working that way. The way you avoid that is you got to swim out of that bicep control and either get a body lock or get underhooks to swim under. But Rozenstruik was kind of giving into the pressure. It seems like he didn't really know how to counter that bicep control up against the cage from Gane. So I don't think it was like a strength issue. I think he just didn't realize the technique that was being used against him there. So while we're in between rounds here, Jeff, let's talk about the co-main event, which for me was you have two really prolific finishers in Nikita Krylov and Magomed Ankalaev. And this was like more of a technical grappling match. I thought we were going to see some fireworks here, but we saw I think Krylov like barely taking that first round, and then Ankalaev making some adjustments and coming back to win 2 and 3. With his wrestling, how did you see that one?
Yeah, I thought it went the right way. And, I was impressed with both of these guys. I thought it was going to be fireworks on the feet, but they made it into some really good grappling exchanges, which, I think it just shows their confidence. And Ankalaev, especially, man, his wrestling is definitely, top tier in that light heavyweight division.
Yeah. We didn't see a lot of his flashy striking. I mean, he's coming off of that huge knockout over Iwan Kutilaba as we're kicking off the third round of this UFC Vegas 20 main event here. 4 minutes and 50 seconds. Round number 3, Jairzinho, Rozenstruik, and Ciryl Gane. Gane, I think, has this one 2 rounds to nothing so far. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I think Gane's just approaching this in a better game plan than Rozenstruik. Rozenstruik's kind of just swinging for the fences, trying to land that one shot, whereas Gane is, grinding it out. It's a war of attrition for Gane, and I think it's working right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I like the way he's sticking that jab. He's doing the type of jab entry where he's leaning forward with his shoulder. But he's still staying far enough away. Like he's staying out of the pocket with Rozenstruik, which is really smart on his part. And Rozenstruik seems like he just can't get a read on Gane's movement. He can't seem to close the distance there. I mean, sometimes you got to take like a Daniel Cormier approach here, and you got to eat a shot or two to close the distance and get in on the bigger opponent. So he's going to have a lot to learn and a lot to work on after this fight, win or lose. Even if he pulls off a big knockout, like he's going to have to work on those positions up against the cage and, closing the distance when you have someone who's counter striking you and controlling the range. If you're going to be a short, stocky heavyweight, you've got to be able to close the distance. Oh, he looked like he caught Gane coming in right there real quick. Looked like he rocked him a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if it looks like Gane's just walking that off, but Rozenstruik, definitely we see that he's still early into his UFC career. There's a lot of aspects in this fight where Gane has just been more mature and more methodical in his approach. But I agree, man. Rozenstruik, no matter if he wins or loses, definitely needs to expand a little bit on some areas of his game.
Yeah, I mean, he comes from that kickboxing Muay Thai background where he has a ton of experience. So some of those grappling positions, even the standing grappling, he's a little bit unfamiliar with. To both of these guys still young in their MMA career. I think like it's just around 20 fights combined. For these guys, but this heavyweight division in the UFC, it's like you have a couple of impressive performances and you can move up the rankings pretty quick. That was the first we've seen Rozenstruik kind of mix it up. He threw a little jab to the body. That's like the only strike he's thrown that hasn't been swinging for to send Ciryl Gane's head into the third row. Yeah, it's you can tell Rozenstruik's getting frustrated too.
Yeah,
because Gane's not letting him close the distance, but he's not really doing anything to close the distance. I mean, he's got to get in there and try and grab a hold of him, get some dirty boxing in there, something. Because at this point, we're more than halfway through the fight. You have to realize that Gane's not letting you get close. So you kind of have to force it a little bit. He's not going to walk into one of those big shots. Like you need to set it up with something. You need to mix it up. Like go for a takedown. Like even if you're not trying to get him to the ground, just give him something else to think about here at this point. Because, Gane's just picking him apart from a distance. And it seems like he's not willing to engage in the pocket. So Rozenstruik seems like he doesn't have a plan B, which means there's probably not a plan C, D, E, X, F.
Bill, there's barely a plan A. What are you talking about?
well, well, plan A is to send his teeth into his stomach.
Oh man. And Bill, I've noticed Rozenstruik, he's been tapping his cup a little bit. He did that in the first round a few times, and now he like went to tap his eye as if Gane was going for an illegal strike, but I didn't see anything. I don't know if Rozenstruik is just trying to take a second here to regroup.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell that Gane's in his head. You know, sometimes that stuff becomes mental. When you're just frustrated, you feel like you know, you want something to go wrong almost. You know, it's hard to explain, but you know, when you're in there and like things just aren't going your way and you can't figure somebody out, you know, fighters have such an ego. They're like, well, it can't be me. It can't be what I'm doing. Like, he must be doing something fucked up to me. So that could be what it is. You know, he's just looking for something to break up the rhythm of this fight, which, you know, Gane is controlling. Like, he's grasping to get a hold of the rhythm of the fight, with doing those things, in my opinion. But yeah, Gane, you know, up 3 rounds here, in my opinion. And, you know, it's a very good strategy on his part. And, you know, Rozenstruik's going to have a lot to work on. He hasn't really faced this kind of adversity besides the Overeem fight. And, you know, maybe he didn't learn his lesson from that one because he wound up winning it at the last minute. So maybe he looked at that one and he's like, well, I broke his face in half. I don't need to go back and watch that. You know, but maybe he should have, because maybe, you know, Ciryl Gane's not going to get into a slugfest, a phone booth slugfest with him in the last seconds of the fight. And as we're entering round 4 here of this main event, UFC Vegas 20, Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Ciryl Gane, 4 minutes, 30 seconds.
Bill, I'm like 10 seconds ahead of you, dude.
All right, well, no spoilers, Jeff.
Right. Well, I have some bad news for you, Bill. Rozenstruik's doing the same thing he's been doing in the first 3 rounds. And it's still not working.
10 seconds in the future, and he's still there. I feel like Gane is having some success with those leg kicks, but he's kind of pulling them a little bit. Like, he's not fully turning his hips into them. And I'm wondering if that's because he's weary of the counter right hand from Rozenstruik. Like, he's just kind of flicking them out there to score points. He's not really turning his hips over when he throws those leg kicks. So I guess he's just kind of pitter-pattering, trying to keep Rozenstruik away and keep him frustrated, which is obviously working. Rozenstruik is clearly frustrated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is showing a level of MMA maturity for Ciryl Gane here. He's not getting excited. You know, he knows that this is going to be 5 rounds, and he understands that he's not going to put himself in danger and get his head knocked off, like you said before. So I think this is a very, very important fight in Gane's career, as well as Rozenstruik. I think this is going to improve both of their MMA IQs here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. You know, I'd be interested in seeing Gane in there with like a Curtis Blades, just to see how he handles being in there with a wrestler, because we've seen him, you know, submit strikers, and you know, now we're seeing him outstrike a striker. I would like to see him in there with a grappler, just to see how he handles it. Like, how well-rounded is this guy? It seems like he's very methodical about his game planning, and he's able to stick to it in there, which shows a really high fight IQ.
Oh, absolutely.
I think he's trying to hyperextend that lead leg of Rozenstruik with that kick to the thigh, that oblique kick that John Jones has been famous for.
Hey, man. If it works, it works, I guess. I'm not a big fan of it, Bill, personally, but, you know, if I were fighting in the UFC, I'd be throwing it as much as humanly possible. Be trying to snap that patella.
Yeah. Just a little patella patterning. Yeah, so I'm really enjoying this Bell meat over here, Jeff. While we're watching this fight, and I guess while the action is a little slowed down, I'll take this opportunity to tell everybody that they can get their MMA on the Rocks merchandise from our friends at Team Reaper. The website is reaper1.co. So if you want to get an over the top, under the influence shirt, you can do so on that website. I'll put the link in the show notes as well. You want to get an MMA on the Rocks t-shirt, hoodie, or tank top. They also have some awesome MMA training gear, MMA gloves, jiu-jitsu gis, all that stuff. Bags, gym bags, a lot of fun stuff. You can use the promo code MMA Rocks 10. That's MMA ROCKS 10. And go check out our friends, get some cool fight merchandise. They're sponsoring, I believe, over 100 fighters now, which is awesome. It's the best part about that company is that they're really big on supporting fighters. Everybody's always saying like, oh, they should pay the fighters more money. And, if the UFC is not going to do it, it's good that there's companies out there that are willing to do it and help these fighters earn a little bit of extra income. Selling merchandise. So it's awesome. And I love to see how much they support their fighters, win or lose. They're always backing them, always supporting them with social media posts and things of that nature and pushing their merchandise. And they really make some cool stuff, Jeff. I mean, you got some of the shirts, they're a top quality. Everything is printed right here in Tampa, Florida. So what else you want from a company? They're supporting the local fighters. They're a local business. Everybody's talking about supporting fighters and supporting small businesses during the pandemic. So this checks all those boxes, Jeff. Team Reaper.
Oh, absolutely, Bill. I actually want to go visit the store next time that I'm down there, Bill. Give a big thank you to the Team Reaper team.
Yeah. Shout out to Ryan, who is the leader of Team Reaper. I've actually met him in person. Few have, Jeff. He's like the Wizard of Oz. Like, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, but he is the man behind the curtain, and he's doing an awesome job over there. They also do a lot of stuff for suicide awareness. Nice. They do a lot of work with veterans. And shout out to crew Matt McCusker, who's on the broadcast, who's in the process of opening a new location of MJM Muay Thai, which is where I was all day today, Jeff. Helping them renovate the new space over in the Clearwater, Largo area. So if you're looking to train super legitimate Muay Thai and MMA in the Pinellas County area, MJM Muay Thai is where you need to be, Jeff. They have a beautiful new facility, 2 mat areas. They're going to have 2 boxing rings by the end of next week. It's really a beautiful space. I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm proud of crew Matt McCusker, because it wasn't even a year ago. I was taking Muay Thai lessons in his driveway in the rain, getting bit by mosquitoes. And now he has a beautiful new facility that he's getting ready to unveil on Monday. And it's an awesome thing. So big shout out to MJM Muay Thai. As I've totally lost track of this main event fight we're watching here, Jeff. I mean, I feel like I could turn away for a long time, and I look back and it's the same thing. It's Ciryl Gane backing Rozenstruik up against the cage, and John Jones is tweeting about it now. I guess that's the most exciting thing that's happened in this round.
Yeah, Bill, but I'm appreciating the Gane IQ here, because this is how you beat Rozenstruik. This is how Stipe Miocic beat Francis Ngannou, which, by the way, nobody's been able to do since, Bill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And for some reason, Ngannou is a 2-1 favorite, 2.5-1 favorite in a rematch, which I can't understand why. Chael Sonnen was like, can somebody tell me why? Like, what did you see in the first fight? He's like, so you're telling me that Ngannou's going to knock Stipe out, and he's 2.5 more times likely to do that than Stipe is to do exactly what he did to him last time. I get it. Like, Ngannou is scary as hell, man. I can think of very few people who would actually want to get in there with him, but Stipe is a smart fighter, and we're seeing this fight taper off, and Rozenstruik doesn't look like he's faded at all, Jeff. He still looks like Clubber Lang in there. Like he could still take somebody's head off. He just needs that mistake from Ciryl Gane, and Gane looks like he's very disciplined and he's not going to make that mistake.
Yeah, and that to me is a little scary right now. Is Rozenstruik, like you said, he's moving exactly like he was in the first round. Still waiting for that shot. I don't know if Gane wants to have Rozenstruik pushed up against the cage like this outside of the clinch, because Rozenstruik can still, swing for the fences and hit him pretty clean.
Yeah, Overeem learned that the hard way.
Yeah, but Overeem probably doesn't remember he learned that.
Yeah. Hey, you know what was freaky about that, Jeff, is that his lip was split in half, and then like a week later he was fine. Like he just regenerated his lip tissue like Wolverine.
Yeah, that horse meat will do that, Bill. It's all that protein.
Yeah, it does have like very restorative properties, right?
Oh man, but Bill, going back to the topic of Stipe Miocic, man, I don't think it would be a bad idea to put some money on him since everybody in Las Vegas didn't see the first fight. But
yeah, and I think that's the idea behind it too, is the odds makers like try to get people to play the line a little bit. So they'll try to get people to put a lot of money on Stipe, which will bring the line a little bit closer. So I think we're going to see that gap close by the time the fight week rolls around. I'm not very savvy about gambling. I don't gamble myself. I'm just not a lucky person, Jeff. As much as I know about MMA, and I could probably predict for you 10 out of 10 fights in a row, but if I were to bet on any of those fights, it would just go the other way. That's just how it goes. And that's why I don't give you guys predictions very often. And Gane just got a takedown, and he's got Rozenstruik's back here with 32 seconds left to go. And I got to imagine he's sealed the deal here, unless the judges have been watching a different fight than us, Jeff.
Yeah, they might be watching the first Stipe Miocic and Ngannou fight.
Yeah, the judges are like, well, Rozenstruik's the only one who's tried to finish the fight, and they wouldn't be wrong. Like, man, he's been tenacious with his strategy of like backing up and trying to land a big overhand, and that's it. That was the fifth round, right? That's the end of the fifth round.
Yep.
All right, so I imagine we're getting a 50-45 in favor of Ciryl Gane here. In the meantime, Pedro Munhoz, Jimmie Rivera, fight of the night for me, fight of the night for you, Jeff. What did you get out of this one?
Bill, it's looking to me like these calf kick things are going to be a new trend, along with, like the oblique kick was a couple years back. But, man, credit to both of these guys because they beat the shit out of each other, man. Mm-hmm. It was so back and forth. It looked like Jimmie Rivera was kind of crawling his way back in that second round. But Pedro Munhoz, he just had too much in the tank for him. And I think that those calf kicks really, really paid their dividends in that final round.
Yeah, for sure. And the calf kicks are very influential right now. It's a very hot tactic in MMA. And there's no way to check them. You see a lot of MMA fans, like when somebody gets beat up with a calf kick, a lot of MMA fans are like, oh, they need to learn how to check kick. There's no way to check a calf kick, because if you check the kick and if the kick still lands, it's still going to do damage. Granted, it'll do more damage with your foot on the ground, just because if you have weight on it, it's going to do more damage. But the only way to defend the calf kick is to not get hit with it. As Ciryl Gane just got his hand raised here, as we anticipated, unanimous decision. I'm happy to see the judges were watching the same fight we were for a change. You have to move your leg out of the way. So you have to either slide it back, you have to switch stances as the kick is coming in, or you have to lift it so high that the kick goes right underneath your foot. Which is a high leg kick that's used very often in Muay Thai. All of those tactics I was taught by my Muay Thai instructor, Matt McCusker, at MJM Muay Thai. Another little plug for them. But yeah, you just have to avoid them. And I don't understand why Jimmie Rivera was putting so much weight on that lead leg after so many calf kicks landed. He wasn't trying to get out of the way. He wasn't switching stances. Not that you have to switch stances because you're hurt, but switch stances just to mix it up. You're getting beat up to one area and you're not doing anything to change it. So that was a big problem for Jimmie Rivera in that fight. I thought Pedro Munhoz looked so composed, so good. He would shell up and then counter Jimmie Rivera beautifully. He did get hit with some big shots in that fight, though. He had a big cut under his right eye at the end of the fight. And I'm just going to turn this fight off now because there's no reason to use my phone battery anymore. But yeah, it was very exciting because Jimmie Rivera has the ability to end the fight at any time. He tried to wrestle a little bit, but when your leg is beat up and the nerves and the bruising in your calf, it's hard to push off on that leg to finish a takedown. And Jimmie learned that in there, but he gave some shots back to Pedro. He didn't look terrible, but at the same time, he essentially got shut down in that fight, and it was a big setback for Jimmie Rivera. Pedro Munhoz calling out TJ Dillashaw. He's definitely not getting that fight.
Oh, absolutely not.
But, you gotta admire. He was like, yeah, I guess I'm number 8 in the rankings. I don't really know how the rankings work, but TJ Dillashaw is coming back. I'll fight him.
Bill, I don't think anybody knows how the UFC rankings work. I don't know if they do work, but great performance from Pedro Munhoz to come back, man.
Yeah, so people really invest too much in the rankings, and I've talked about this a couple of times. So the rankings were created just to give a little bit of credibility. It's not like number 1 is always going to fight number 2, number 2 is always going to fight number 3, so on down the line. It's to give the sport a little credibility so that they're actually keeping track of stuff, and it's to give the media something to talk about, which, you and I don't talk about it very much because we know it's something that's been made up for the media to talk about. Interesting fights are interesting fights, and shitty fights are shitty fights. And, when the people speak up, they typically get the fights they want to see. That's just the way it works. If the people really wanted to see Pedro Munhoz against TJ Dillashaw, then, they would make it happen and the rankings wouldn't matter, because the rankings don't matter. We've seen this time after time, how, when Michael Bisping won the championship against Luke Rockhold, he fought Dan Henderson because it was interesting. It was a rematch. Dan Henderson was ranked like 15th at the time. That's just the first example that jumps to mind. But yeah, people who always talk about the rankings are like, I can't believe it. This guy's number 2. Why isn't he getting the title shot? Like, because he's not fucking interesting. It's not that hard to figure out. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not a fun fight. It's not a draw. It's not going to make any money. Like, people outside of the 15% of hardcore fans don't give a shit about it. That's why the fight's not happening. Like, it's the same answer across the board. Let's get through the rest of this card real quick, Jeff, because there's a couple other things I want to talk about, including previewing UFC 259 coming up next week, which has a lot of fun fights on it. We already have a comment from Mark on here about one of the title fights on that card. But Alex Caceres dominating Kevin Croom. I thought Caceres looked phenomenal in this fight. His clinch work was really good. I liked a lot of the things, a lot of the nuances in his clinch game, his game on the ground. Like even when he was on his back, he was attacking. He had that triangle in the first round that looked really tight, but he said Croom's head was slipping out, so he had to let it go. Alex Caceres is one of these fighters, man. He either looks phenomenal or he looks totally flat. Like the fight with Chrome Gracie. There's a couple of times he's gotten in there and just hasn't looked himself, but man, he looked really fucking good in there tonight. Give me your thoughts, Jeff.
Yeah, he looked great against Kevin Croom. I was just a little confused because it looked like he had a triangle in the second round. The setup was great. He had Kevin Croom's legs so that Croom couldn't stand up on him, and then he let it go. I don't know if he explained it in the post-fight interview, but
yeah, he did, Jeff. I just talked about that. I said he felt that Croom's head was slipping out, and his legs were getting tired, so he had to let it go.
Oh, sorry, Bill. I was looking at the comments because Mark Fellow said that he dozed off 3 times during the fight, meaning Gane versus Rozenstruik, and
That's fair.
And I was just thinking, well, that means that you woke up every time, Mark. So we appreciate you.
But, yeah, that means he also fell asleep during the fucking show that he asked for. But it's also the middle of the day on Sunday in Australia, and he's had like 12 IPAs by now, so I can understand why he's fallen asleep. But and I'm not really offended, Mark. You know that. Thiago Moises getting unanimous decision over Alexander Hernandez. I'm just going to breeze over the rest of these results, Jeff. I'll tell you what popped out to me the most. Alexis Davis, unanimous decision over Sabina Mazo. Ronnie Lawrence over Vince Cachero, TKO in the third round. Probably the most impressive performance to me was Ronnie Lawrence on this whole card. And then Dustin Jacoby over Max Grishin, unanimous decision. That was a really close fight. A lot of people are saying it could have been a draw in that one, but Ronnie Lawrence looked really good to me, Jeff. UFC debut. He was dominant, man. He hit takedowns at will. His top game was really dominant, and then he was just beating the fuck out of Vince Cachero in that third round. The referee could have stopped it a number of times, and just like Cachero was like rolling to try and stop from getting hit on the ground, and everywhere he turned, Ronnie Lawrence was hitting him in the face. It was a really dominant, really impressive performance, especially for a UFC debut. This bantamweight kid is definitely someone to keep an eye on. I'm calling that now here on MMA on the Rocks, episode 230, February 27, 2021. Give me your thoughts on those last 4 fights I just kind of skimmed over for you, Jeff.
Bill, unfortunately, I missed the first 2 fights of the prelims because I spent like an hour debating whether or not I wanted to do my taxes today. But it was the last day that TurboTax would give me $30 off. So I was like, screw it, let's do it. Well, I'm nothing if not cheap. So I had to get it done today, Bill.
Jeff, go back and watch Ronnie Lawrence's performance on those prelims. Out of everything on the prelims, that's the fight you have to go see for sure.
All right, sweet. I'll definitely go and check that out right after this. But, Bill, I was not disappointed by what I did see on the prelims. I thought Alexis Davis looked great against Sabina Mazo, who Mazo is a very, very tough opponent. It looked like she was winning the fight on the feet, and Davis had to take it to the ground to really carve out the win here. And Thiago Moises and Alexander Hernandez. It was very back and forth, Bill. I thought this was a great fight. One judge had it 29-28. The other 2 had it 30-27. I could have seen it going either way, but I felt like the decision went the right way. I felt like Thiago Moises just did enough to win that fight, but not fight of the night worthy. Maybe a runner-up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure. Personally, I hope to see obviously Rivera and Munhoz get fight of the night bonuses, and I hope to see Lawrence get a performance of the night bonus. So hopefully that's the way that goes. Any other thoughts on UFC Vegas 20 before we move on?
No, I thought this was a good card. And I think it's ending at a reasonable time, Bill. I think we'll be able to catch some Z's after this.
Oh, this is beautiful, Jeff. I mean, you and I were texting. You got a busy day tomorrow. It's always kind of hard for me to fit the podcast in on a Sunday, but it's also hard for me to stay awake on a Saturday night when these things end too late. So this is perfect timing. It's 11:16 right now, Eastern Standard Time here in the United States. We appreciate everybody joining in live for this one, and apologize to everyone listening after the fact who's probably confused how we go in and out talking about the main event and back to the fight card. But before we get to UFC 259, which I want to spend a good amount of time on, I want to talk about the jiu-jitsu happenings over the weekend, Jeff, between Gordon Ryan and Andre Galvao. So I guess this video started going viral this morning, at least viral within the MMA community. Galvao kind of confronted Ryan Gordon in what looked like a hotel lobby in the dark for some reason, and he called him a bitch and shoved him, and then Ryan Gordon slapped him in the face, and Galvao just took it. Like he took that slap like he didn't have a hot meal prepared for Ryan Gordon when he came home after a long day of work.
Oh man.
I know you,
Phil. Tell me how you really feel, man.
Like, I mean, Andre Galvao is a bad motherfucker, Jeff, but he let another man slap him in the face and he did nothing. He called him an idiot. He got slapped in the face and he's like, "You're an idiot." Like, why are you going to go up and shove the guy and then he retaliates and you do nothing? Like, you're either going to have a street fight or you're not. And I guess Galvao chose to not have one. Like, I don't understand this whole altercation. And then he came up to Gordon Ryan later while Ryan was doing an interview, and he was just kind of yelling at him, and Ryan got in his face and was like, "I'll beat the fuck out of you right now." And Galvao didn't do anything again, and John Danaher is like awkwardly in between them. Like, have you seen the pictures of John Danaher lately? He's gone beyond like dad mode. He's got not just a fanny pack, he's got like a whole utility belt, and he's got like the dad shoes, the New Balance shoes.
The New Balance
the Griller 3000s.
Oh,
and, like, there's been a lot of funny memes of John Danaher today. But give me your thoughts on this whole interaction, Jeff.
Bill, I'll be honest with you. I think this is fake news, man. I think this whole event was staged. I think that I don't know, man. Andre Galvao, like you said, man, he's a crazy dude. I don't think he takes that lying down. So I honestly think this was staged. And I think that the scariest part about all this, Bill, is Gabby Garcia coming out and grabbing Andre Galvao. She looks like she could grapple him in a final of an ADCC. All right.
Yeah. Although she got whipped up in her match at whatever tournament this is. I don't follow jiu-jitsu very closely. I got to be honest.
Nobody.
There's a few people out there who do. They're like, "Did you see the AC double F A?"
But really quick though, so I did a little bit of research, and this seems to have stemmed from it looks like Gordon Ryan and Andre Galvao grappled each other at this event or whatever, and at the end, Gordon Ryan went to extend the hand to shake Andre Galvao's hand, and Andre Galvao flipped him off. So it's not like he didn't have this coming, Bill. Act like a bitch, get slapped like a bitch. All right?
Yeah. Yeah, Gordon Ryan was going to make sure that Galvao received that hand one way or another, whether it be in a handshake or with a palm across the face.
Oh man, and receive it he did.
Shout out to Slew American 989 who's joining the show. Says we're the best, and he's drinking Legion Kentucky Straight 94 proof. How is that? I have not tried that one myself, and I'm always looking for things to add to my list. You know, more excuses to spend my entire tax return on bourbon, which I've been stocking up lately, Jeff. I've been the liquor stores near me have been like magically getting stuff in stock. Like they must know that everybody has their tax return coming, and like all of a sudden the shit that's hard to find all year has magically been in stock, like Buffalo Trace, Colonel Taylor, which is one of my all-time top 5 favorite bourbons, Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel, Larceny Barrel Proof, like all stuff that's impossible to find all year, magically fully stocked everywhere. I walk into all the local liquor stores and I'm just like, take my money. Because here's the stuff I can never find throughout the year. As if they don't take my money every other time I walk in there, but I'm usually like mildly disappointed when I walk out. At least now I'm spending more money, but I'm walking out with like stuff I appreciate. But yeah, thank you, Slew American, for letting us know what you're drinking while watching the show. We always appreciate that. I'm always looking for new recommendations. But yeah, with the jiu-jitsu thing, I mean, what do you do now? Do you have a matchup between these two guys? Do you have, like, if I'm Eddie Bravo, I'm calling both of these guys to have them do a combat jiu-jitsu match. Like, I think that's the only solution here. Like, I think that's the only way to market this occurrence, because like after he slaps him, what are you gonna do? Are they gonna have another jiu-jitsu match where they're only grappling? That sucks. Like that sucks anyway. Like I don't enjoy watching jiu-jitsu, and I love jiu-jitsu. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for almost 10 years, but I don't watch it. I don't give a fuck about these guys that are like, oh, look at the grips and look at the fuck heel hook entry he did. Like, who cares?
Yeah, Bill, I agree with you 100%, man. Like, I don't know what a donkey guard is, or whatever the fuck. Sorry, dude. I love jiu-jitsu, but it's like nah, I don't like baseball. It's kind of like I'd rather be in it than like watching it. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about soccer sometimes.
Yeah, I feel the same way about a lot of things. Like I was a lacrosse player in high school, and I coached lacrosse for many years. I don't think I've ever watched a whole lacrosse game on TV, and they have it on ESPN now. Like you can find it. Same thing with amateur wrestling. Like I wrestled for a long time. I started wrestling when I was 11 or 12 years old. I don't watch much amateur wrestling. I'll watch the Olympics. I'll watch the NCAA finals, but yeah, for the most part, I'm not watching a whole lot of it.
That's fair. But Bill, what was I going to tell you? Yeah, dude. So, hold on. I just got a text that my return has been sent. All right, Bill. So
that's great. Before you get into your point, I'm just going to address Mark's question. Yes, lacrosse is the game where you bash your opponents with sticks. They're often like made of titanium. They hurt very much. I have a lot of injuries and concussions from that sport. I actually got more concussions playing lacrosse than I did wrestling and MMA combined. I have not been concussed very much in combat sports, but I had more than a handful of concussions playing lacrosse. It is a very violent sport.
All right, Bill. Speaking of violence, I think we're ready to move on to next week. I don't know about you, Bill, but I think next week is going to be pretty violent. And Bill, I know you want this to be a short night, but I'm of the opposite opinion, Bill. I want 15 rounds of absolute madness.
You might get that. And I'm actually going to be at my Muay Thai gym watching this card next week, so I'll be hanging around with some friends. So maybe I won't care if this one goes a little late. Maybe the wife will let me sleep in next Sunday, and she'll be a little understanding because we're breaking in a new gym, celebrating, and watching the fights there. Once again, MJM Muay Thai, Clearwater, Largo area. All right, so here's my question for you, Jeff. The main event, Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya, who's moving up from middleweight to challenge light heavyweight champion. Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson for the featherweight championship, women's featherweight championship. Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling for the bantamweight championship. Out of these three title fights, if you could only watch one, Jeff, which one are you choosing?
Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling.
All right. You did not hesitate. Not a beat there, Jeff.
Bill, I will tell you why. Because Aljo, ever since his setback, who was it against? Was it Marlon Moraes? I believe it was. He's just been on a tear, man. And, we've been talking about Peter Yan. He beat Jose Aldo. But Jose Aldo, I think he needs to get his feet just a little bit more wet in the bantamweight division before going for the title shot. I think he needed to get used to fighting at 135. He only had like one other fight at 135. Mm-hmm. But, man, I think this is just going to be such a good fight, dude. They're both well-rounded. They can both strike really well on the feet. They can both grapple really well. Peter Yan, he has this weird way, man, of mixing up his striking into these crazy takedowns that nobody sees coming. And, he didn't do that against Jose Aldo, but he's done that in the past where, he's throwing a 1-2 at you. Next thing you know, you just got ankle picked and you're looking at the lights. Mm-hmm. So I think Aljamain Sterling's jiu-jitsu is real, can at least compete with Jan's wrestling, although I also feel like Peter Jan's grappling and that wrestling is just on another level in the bantamweight division, man. You didn't see the full scope of Peter Jan's abilities against Jose Aldo because they were on the feet, man. But Peter Yan, super scary guy, and Aljamain Sterling, he's up there, man. I think that in the title picture is where he belongs. He's proven that in the last few fights. So, Bill, I'm really excited for that one, man.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Out of the three title fights, that's the one I'm also looking forward to the most. What I don't agree with you on is Peter Yan's grappling being equal to Aljamain's. I see Aljamain Sterling as the better wrestler and the better grappler. He's got more submissions. I love the way Aljamain Sterling has some very unusual entries for his takedowns. He's got a high success rate with his takedowns as well. He submitted Corey Sandhagen in like the blink of an eye. So definitely a higher level grappler. I see Peter Yan having the advantage on the feet just because he's a little cleaner, a little bit more technical. Again, on the feet, Aljamain is very unorthodox. So, that presents a lot of problems, but it also presents a lot of openings for a very technical striker. So if this fight's going to end in a knockout, if you told me it ends in a knockout, I would say Peter Yan was the winner. And if you told me it ends in a submission, I would say that Aljamain Sterling won.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Bill, I'm curious to see how Aljo does over the course of 5 rounds. I don't recall seeing him in a 5-round fight or main event, which honestly, I have my own opinions on 5-round main events that are not title fights. But the point is, I'm curious to see how Aljamain Sterling does over 5 rounds. However, we've never seen him like tired or exhausted, at the end of his fights.
Yeah, I can answer that one for you, Jeff, because I know people who train with Aljamain Sterling, and his main training partner is Merab Dvalishvili, who we know is a cardio machine. And Aljamain often credits him as the secret to his cardio. So Merab is like notorious in the gym for going 5 hard rounds of sparring and then like running 20 miles and diving face first into an ice pit. Did you see that on Merab's Instagram last week? He was like jogging in the park and he saw like a frozen pond and he decided to dive into it face first and he had to get like stitches.
Oh, jeez. That's why I love Merab Valashvili, though. That's why he's our favorite Georgian.
Well, here's the thing. He went back the next day with boxing gloves and got into the pond and punched a hole in it.
Oh, man. I guess it's 1-1 against the pond, huh?
Yeah, he's a fucking character, man. But yeah, I wouldn't be worried about Aljamain's cardio going 5 rounds. I'm really excited for that one. Let's talk about the co-main event here. Of course, our buddy Mark Fellows is rooting for Megan Anderson, the fellow Aussie here, to win a championship here. And he said, do you think Megan Anderson wins by KO or submission? Those were the options he presented. I got to be honest, Mark, you're my boy, but I don't see anybody getting past Amanda Nunes right now. But crazier things have happened. Amanda Nunes has become a mom within the past year. So even though she didn't give birth, her partner did. I can tell you that definitely changes your mentality. It changes a lot of things about your lifestyle. It changes a lot of things about your perspective. I've certainly become, much less aggressive after becoming a parent. Even in the gym and stuff, I don't really feel like going as hard as often anymore. I'm also older than Amanda Nunes is. So anything can happen, but I gotta side with the Lioness here. Like I don't see any scenario in which she loses this fight. So what do you think, Jeff?
Oh man, Bill, you know my stance on Amanda Nunes. There's only one woman in the UFC who can beat her, and her name is Cat Zingano. All right.
Wait, I hate to correct you there, Jeff, but Cat Zingano is no longer in the UFC.
Which brings me to my next point, Bill. She's up there in years, unfortunately, so she may have retired. So
no, I think she's in Bellator.
Oh, damn it. All right.
Which is like, that's the step after retirement. Like you retire and then you go to Bellator.
Sheesh, Bill. It's like she's a pro soccer player. When they retire, they come play in the United States. Oh man,
is that what David Beckham did?
Yeah, that's exactly what he did.
Oh, all right. That's the only soccer player I know.
Yeah, but he made $1 million a week for like 5 years or something. So
nice.
Yeah, but anyway,
yeah, and he was banging a Spice Girl.
Yeah, but I think he's more famous for his hair than his soccer ability. Never thought that he was that good of a player. He was a very good free kick taker and good at crossing the ball. But anyway, Bill, this isn't a soccer podcast, Bill. Quit changing the topic on me. But yeah, dude. I don't see anybody with the skill set to beat Amanda Nunes at 135 or 145, except for Valentina Shevchenko. But doubt that's going to happen anytime soon or ever again. Megan Anderson, she's tall. She's very tall, and I think she's got a good reach advantage, but also Amanda Nunes is built in this way where like she has these really long arms, dude. So I don't know, man. I want Megan Anderson to like put up a great fight and have it come down to the wire. I'd like for it to go 5 rounds, but I think whichever way you slice it, I think Amanda Nunes remains the champ at 145, which I think is the weight class they're fighting at on Saturday.
Yeah, it is. And here's the thing too. We saw Holly Holm expose Megan Anderson's ground game. Holly Holm was able to out-grapple her, and Holly Holm's a kickboxer. She's not a grappler by any means. and she woman handled Megan Anderson on the ground. Amanda Nunes is nasty on top. We saw her, when she was having trouble on the feet with Jermaine Duranamy, and by got hit like more than once. She took her down and she mauled her on top. I think if Nunes gets on top of Megan Anderson, it's gonna be a massacre. There's no other way to put it. The main event here, Jeff, is really interesting because we have Israel Adesanya, the reigning middleweight champion, moving up, challenging Jan Blachowicz, the light heavyweight champion. Not a lot of buzz around this fight. You would think there'd be a lot of hype, one champion moving up to challenge another. But, Jan is a quiet guy. He doesn't talk a lot of shit. Like, even someone like Adesanya, who's a very eccentric personality, can't get Jan Blachowicz riled up. I'm really interested for this fight because, Adesanya is a sniper. He's an excellent counter striker. Jan Blachowicz gets hit a lot. No matter what he's trying to do, he gets hit. That's just his style of fighting. But he has a significant power advantage over Adesanya, who we know can be knocked out. He's been knocked out in kickboxing, still 20-0 in MMA, but he has been knocked out before. If Blachowicz is able to land one of those Polish hammers, man, it's going to be lights out for Adesanya. There's no two ways about it. But at the same time, Blachowicz can be a little bit sloppy, when he's getting in close range. Then you have the grappling. We saw, Adesanya just recently got his purple belt in jiu-jitsu. We saw him rolling with Andre Galvao, actually. And Galvao was going light with him, but we saw a lot of technical ability from Adesanya. But I think if this fight goes to the ground, he's going to be in over his head with Blachowicz, who's much bigger, who's very slick. He has some very unorthodox submissions. He's very, very good on the ground. I lean towards Blachowicz. The technical mind doesn't see a whole lot of openings for Adesanya. But at the same time, Adesanya is a very smart fighter, and he's taking this fight for a reason. He sees something in Blachowicz. He sees a weakness that he can exploit, and I can't count him out. So that's why I'm very interested in this main event. There's something there that I can't quite put the pieces together on. Give me your thoughts, Jeff.
Yeah, Bill. Mark Fellow says he takes Jan. He only needs to land one good shot, and that is basically my opinion as well, man. Jan Blachowicz has just got that Polish power, dude, and it's a little scary. So I feel like Israel Adesanya coming up to 205. Adesanya, he's a great fighter, but I think Blachowicz just beats him in power and grappling. Maybe not in technique when it comes to striking, but, like Mark Fellow said, and I'm of the same opinion, I think Blachowicz just needs one good shot to put Adesanya away. But can he land that shot, man? Adesanya is so tricky to fight. I'm really, really interested in this title fight, Bill. But
all right, sorry. Go ahead, finish your point.
No, go ahead.
And Adesanya is going to be so much quicker in there. And it's hard to deny Adesanya. I mean, he's tried 20 times in MMA, and he's been successful every single time, and he's been counted out in a lot of them. But at the same time, if Kelvin Gastelum could almost knock him out, Jan Blachowicz can definitely knock him out. I just don't know, man. My mind says that Blachowicz should win this fight. Like, there's no way he shouldn't. He's the bigger guy. He's got more power. He's a better grappler. But then there's my gut that's saying, like, there's something about Adesanya that, like, he always seems to win when he's not supposed to, against guys he's not supposed to. So that's what makes this fight so intriguing to me.
Yeah, exactly. There's that X factor that is Israel Adesanya, man. It's so unpredictable, and I think that's why it's such an exciting title fight. But Bill, if you're ready to move on a little bit,
Sure.
I'm going to tell you the actual main event of this card is the return of the original king.
You're going to tell me Dominic Cruz.
Dominic Cruz at 135, Bill, is going to main event the prelims. And Bill, this is the actual main event. He's fighting Casey Kenny. I don't know who that is, but Bill, it's Cruz time, man. Let's do it. It's about time he got over his fear of fighting.
So I know that you're a big fan of Dominic Cruz, and you're excited for this one. But man, he just moved from fighting for the title to fighting on the prelims. That's a big step down. But this card is so stacked. You can have like arguably, and I know you would argue, so the greatest bantamweight of all time, Dominic Cruz. This card is so stacked. He's fighting on the prelims, Jeff. Casey Kenny's a tough test. He's kind of a piece of shit as a human. There was recently, a couple weeks ago, he was on Sean O'Malley's podcast, and they were talking about like, oh, would you fuck Megan Anderson? And Casey Kenny was like, oh, she's like a 4 a.m. or a 5 a.m. or if there's nobody else around, you bring her home. And Megan Anderson obviously was upset, and she tweeted out, I guess I work for a company where you can talk about, whether or not you would sleep with your coworkers. And nothing was done about it. No statement by the UFC. And look, Jeff, I'm not someone who's an advocate of like cancel culture or like babying people or, any of that soft shit that's come out of like the generations behind me. But, his comments were uncalled for. It was disrespectful for someone who is higher up in the company than he is, in Megan Anderson, who's fighting for a championship while he's on the prelims. And he's on a podcast with Sean O'Malley, who's talking about, taking meth while he's a father. So he's obviously a piece of shit too. I can't condone any of this behavior or any of these comments. I'll be the first one to roll my eyes at any of this like cancel culture stuff and like people being offended by everything. I think Casey Kenny's a piece of shit, and I hope Dominic Cruz beats him into oblivion. And, hopefully that's what we see on the main event of the prelims come Saturday night.
Yeah, Bill, I didn't know that half of the equation. But yeah, totally uncalled for, and Bill, listen, we're both guys, we have thoughts like that, but we're not going to go out and put them on the internet for everybody to hear. Mm-hmm. One, and two, I think a big part of the blame goes to Sean O'Malley too, man. Like, what kind of content are you producing?
Garbage
is going out there. Well, that's about that's what I think of his skill set as well. I don't think he's that good of a fighter. No, I think he's way overhyped, and I think his hair looks stupid. There, I said it. But as for Casey Kenny, if that were me, I wouldn't even agree to be on something like that, man. You kind of have to know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
But Bill, don't you worry about Casey Kenny, because the greatest bantamweight of all time even if Casey Kenny was a nice guy, unfortunately, Dominic Cruz would have to either knock him out or put him to sleep in their fight. So, Bill, either way, Saturday night is not going to go well for him. It's not going to go well for anybody against Dominic Cruz, except
for sure. Yeah, we keep it class here on this show, and I'm drunk 90% of the time. I mean, although Jeff, if I ever pass away, I have it written in my will that my text messages with you never be released to the public.
Oh yeah. without saying. Bill, if that were to happen, I would restore your phone to its factory settings.
Please do. I'm leaving my cell phone to you in my will, and you need to destroy it by any means necessary.
We can. It would also Bill never run for public office.
Yeah. I could never run for public office. That's gone out the window a long time ago. I'm posting Mark's comment here, even though I haven't fully read it. But we skipped over a couple of really good fights here, Jeff. Islam Makhachev and Drew Dober on the main card here. That's a really fun fight. Thiago Santos and Alexander Rakic. That's also on the main card. Rakic is a fucking destroyer. Santos, I don't know. After coming back from that John Jones fight where he tore both of his knees apart, I just don't feel like he's the same fighter anymore. And Rakic is a fucking world beater, man. And he's a really dangerous young fighter. But Santos is a real crafty veteran. He's shown to be a really good coach as well, cornering Yana Kunitskaya last week. So after seeing that, I don't worry for him as much because he's such a veteran and he's so experienced. But Rakic is a beast, man. And then I'm going to go over a couple of other things, Jeff, and you tell me what sticks out to you the most, because it's actually a really long card here. Yadong Song and Kyler Phillips is on the prelims as well. Joseph Benavidez, another fighter who just fought for a championship and is now on the prelims.
Yeah, but he got annihilated. You can't compare him to the great Dominic Cruz, Bill.
I'm not comparing him. I'm saying
they're
in the same boat here. They both fought for a championship in their last fight. Now they're both in the prelims. So he's fighting Askar Askarov, the undefeated Askar Askarov. That's actually a really tough fight for Joseph Benavidez.
Yeah.
But luckily, not a lot of people are going to be watching it. I'm going to skip around a little bit. Here's my sleeper fight for you, Jeff. Jordan Espinosa and Tim Elliott. I think that's going to be a really fun fight. And then we got Sean Brady and Jake Matthews. Another Australian, I believe, for Mark in Jake Matthews. So I'll go ahead and root for him. Kai Kara France on the prelims of this as well against Rogerio Bontorin. Uros Medic against Alan Cruz. The undefeated Uros Medic. Alan Cruz cross-trains a little bit here at Gracie Tampa South. So, of course, I'm going to be rooting for him. He, of course, had a phenomenal knockout victory on Dana White's Contender Series, flying knee. If you haven't seen Alan Cruz's fight on Dana White's Contender Series, I strongly encourage you to Google it or look it up on UFC Fight Pass or wherever you can find it. And that's all I'm going to give you, Jeff. What's sticking out to you, my friend?
Bill, I really like that Song Yadong versus Kyler Phillips fight. Song Yadong is a fantastic fighter, and he hits hard, man, in this bantamweight division. So I'm excited for that. Obviously, I'm obviously looking forward to the Dominic Cruz fight. But, Bill, this whole card is stacked, man. And me, Bill, I love Thiago Santos as well. I want it to go well for him against Rakic. My heart says Santos, but my head says that it might be Rakic, unfortunately. But man, dude, you have Islam Makhachev versus Drew Dober to round out the main card. Bill, top to bottom, this card looks stacked. I think I'm gonna have to clear my calendar for this one.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. I'm almost disappointed. I'm gonna be going to watch it at the gym around a bunch of other people. I almost want to be by myself with a bottle of whiskey watching this one, but I'll be around a bunch of other people with a bottle of whiskey. So, not much changes for me. And I don't listen to the commentary anyway, so I'm just going to be focused on the fights and watching them and, maybe cracking a couple of jokes here and there with some of my training partners, which I'm looking forward to. Any other encompassing thoughts on UFC 259, UFC Vegas 20, Gordon Ryan slapping Andre Galvao, Bellmead Whiskey, Team Reaper, anything else we've talked about tonight, Jeff?
Bill, first off, a big thank you again to Team Reaper for making our MMA on the Rocks gear and for sponsoring fighters, which, Bill, you know I'm all for, man. I hate the UFC Reebok deal. Um, I'm all for the fighters making as much money as they can because, it's not an easy lifestyle to be an MMA fighter. And, it can be high risk, low reward sometimes. So I'm glad the Team Reaper is doing their part to help out the MMA fighting community. But Bill, yeah, I think for UFC 259 next week, it's gonna be one to not miss.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really looking forward to it. And big shout out to Team Reaper. You guys know, especially been listening to the show for a long time. I don't endorse companies that I don't really believe in, or that I don't use myself. Like, I only tell you guys about stuff that I drink and enjoy. If I drink something and it's shit, I don't tell you guys about it. I'm just not that person. I don't like to put negativity out there. I don't like to put down things that other people are doing. Maybe I just don't have a taste for it. So anything you hear about on this podcast is my honest opinion about companies, about fights, about anything going on in the world. Henry Gracie jiu-jitsu sucks. So that's what I loved most about this whole Gordon Ryan situation, is that there were a couple of memes that came out and are like, Henry Gracie flew Andre Galvao to his studio and gave him private lessons, and now he has the confidence to deal with the bully who's been picking on him, and Gordon Ryan.
Oh, that's funny.
And I just loved that. That brought so much joy to my day. In any case, I guess we'll put a bow on this one, Jeff. We went a little over our usual hour, and I know a lot of people are surprised we keep it to an hour. Like, some people like the episodes a little bit longer, but I find like an hour is good. It's like Elvis Presley says, Jeff, the late great Elvis Presley, always leave him wanting more. And I try to go by that. In any case, I don't know if we're doing things right or wrong here on MMA on the Rocks, but we're always open to your feedback, criticism, shares, comments, whatever you want to throw at us. So if you want to get a hold of Jeff, it's at @animal_Wilson, Twitter and Instagram. You guys know how to get a hold of me. It's at MMA on the Rocks everywhere on social media. You can send me an email, mmaontheRocks@gmail.com. You can go to our website. You can send us a message that way. You can always get a hold of us. We're very accessible. And if you want to send us whiskey or any kind of booze, we're even more accessible. We'll send you a P.O. box or something like that. So that's it. For Jeff the Animal Wilson, my name is Bill Welker. Until next time, cheers, everybody. Goodbye.